Create a new Flutter project, add Sqflite path and get it under dependencies, and Sqflite common FFI under dev dependencies. Then under lib, create core database and models folder. Inside core, create constant.dart file. For this app, we'll have a single table which is users with columns ID, name and age. So we have all this information inside user table class, and we have a create user table query inside database query class. We'll need fetch users query for getting all users from user table. Fetch user by ID is a function which takes an ID and return a query for that particular ID. For our app, we only need these three queries. For other functions like insert, update and delete, we have functions inside Sqflite package. So we'll use that. But if you want, you can use raw queries for these functions as well. Now inside model folder, create user.dart file. Create user class with ID, name and age properties and toJSON and fromJSON functions. Create database service.dart file inside database folder. Database service class will have an init function which will open database and return an instance of database object. For that, first get database path and then join that path with the database name to make complete path for open database. And don't forget to execute create user table query inside on create callback function. Now create user database helper.dart file inside database folder. User database helper class will depend on database object and will provide that through a constructor. Now let's add first function which is insert user. We have db.insert function which takes table name and values. Table name is users, and for values we use toJSON function because it returns a map of column name and their respective values. Insert function return an ID of last inserted row and will set this as user ID and return this object. And for get user function, we'll use fetch user by ID which we have in database query class. This return a list of map. We'll use from JSON functions to convert map value into a user object. Update user function takes a user class object and return a bool depending on update status. We use user ID as a condition parameter to update user record. We have db.update function which takes table name, values, where and where arg parameters. Where and where args parameter are optional, but if we don't provide these parameters, then all records will be updated. In our case, we will pass these parameters because we want to update records where record ID matches with the provided user ID. Database.update function return an integer value which could be either 0 or 1 depending on update status. 1 for success, of course. Delete user function takes user ID and return a bool. Database.delete function take three parameters: table name, where and where arg, and return an integer. 1 if deleted successfully and 0 otherwise. In get users function, we'll use raw query function to execute fetch users query which we wrote in database query class earlier. Finally map response to a user list and return. Now let's write test for this user database helper class. Go to test folder and create database folder inside it, and create user database helper test file inside this database folder. Import Flutter test and Sqflite common FFI packages. Then add main function. Flutter test package provide all the function which we need for testing. Group function is one of them where we need to provide the description, and inside its callback body function we write all the tests which belongs to the same group. So for this group, description would be user database helper class test, and inside body we add setup all and tear down all functions. Setup all function run once before all tests, so we can set up stuff here which we'll need in the test. Tear down all function run once after all tests, so we can dispose or close stuff here. So let's open database and don't forget to execute create user table query because our all test depends on it. Then we'll create an object of user database helper class. Inside tear down all function, close database. Now let's write first test. Test function required a test description and a callback body function. Let's test insert user function. For that, test description should be first user information should be inserted. Description should be easily understandable. Now before writing test code, I want to explain AAA pattern for writing unit tests. AAA stands for arrange, act and assert. It is very simple concept to make test clear and easy to understand. Actually from this concept we can divide our test into three sections. First section section where we set up stuff is called arrange section. Then we call function which we want to test is called act section. And finally we verify that the outcome is as expected, and that is a search section. Now let's write test and see this AAA pattern in action. Because we want to test insert user, so we need a user object. Then we call insert user function from user database helper class and verify with expect function. And you can see this test passed our expectation. Same way we can write test for get user function and verify, then for update user function, and test for delete user function, and lastly test for get users function. Now before writing UI code, let's set up dependency injection. For that, under core folder, create di.dart file and add setup di function, where we register user database helper class as a singleton. Now call this function before run app inside main. Now for UI, create a views folder under lib and add user list view page.dart and add update user page.dart files. I have wrote the UI part, and you can get this code from the repository. I'll share link in the description below. And now let's see the demo. So basically we have to test 4 operations: create, read, update and delete. So in this app, as you can see, on the main page we have read operation, but because currently we haven't inserted any user, so the list is empty. So let's add first a user. So we can add new user simply tapping on this floating action button, and let's say the name is 10 and the age is 30. So added successfully. With that we have also tested the read operations, because this information came from the database, because we have inserted on add user page and currently we are on user list page. So this information came from the database. So we have tested 2 operations, add and read. So now before testing update and delete, let's add another user. So let's say I have Ali and the age 50. So we have 2 users. Let's add another one just for fun, 10, 23. And now let's see if we want to update user age. So let's say I want to update this user age. So updated successfully. Now let's see if I can change its name. Dada. So it's updated successfully as well. So we have tested 3 functions: add, update and read. Now let's check the delete operation. So as you can see, it is really clear that here we have a delete icon, so we have to simply press it and delete it successfully again and again. So that is all for this video. I hope you have learned something new, and if you do, please comment below. Thank you very much.